Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the place to get a dose of empowerment to create the life you crave and deserve. I'm your host, Amy Beltran, CEO and founder of Irresistible University. In my podcast and signature online coaching program, I teach women just like you how to ditch the body image issues, gain confidence, and lose the emotional weight to look and feel irresistible at any size. If you like this podcast, you're going to love my group coaching program. If you want to learn more about it, you can head over to irresistibleicing.com/course. And that link is also in the show notes. Hey everybody, and welcome back to this week's Irresistible You podcast episode. We are getting into something that just had me fired up. When I saw this in the headlines, I was like, okay, take a breath. We need to talk about this because there are so many of you out there that need to hear this, that need to understand, first and foremost, your body is not a trend, okay? And so there was this headline that came out a little while ago, and it was talking about heroin chic. Here, let me read you like the actual headline because this just blew my mind when I read it. Okay, so we are in 2022, and there was an article in the New York Post that said, "Bye-bye booty, heroin chic is back." And then they had the audacity in the URL. It says, "Heroin chic is back, and curvy bodies, big butts are out." Excuse me? What? What? Like, okay, so we need to unpack this. We need to talk about it, and we need to set everything straight. And I want to help you wrap your head around this because there's just so much here. Okay. All right. Let's just get into this, guys. So, I'm going to just say this. It's bad enough that 90s fashion has made its return. I mean, I'm 41 years old. I grew up in the 90s. I graduated high school in 1999. So I lived my youth in the 90s and early 2000s. And quite frankly, I didn't ever want to see that fashion come back. And I know this happens. It always does. I mean, when I was a teenager and like middle school, early high school, and the 70s were like a trend, right? Bell bottoms were in, like the hippie style, the round sunglasses, all the beads. And I remember like raiding my mom's records and playing like disco music. Like I was all about it. And it's just funny to me because I guess what goes around comes around, and it's true. And I remember going to, y'all remember that store called Merry-Go-Round? Girl. Merry-Go-Round at the mall, and I got some bell-bottom jeans, and I had all these beaded necklaces. I had necklaces with mushrooms and peace signs. I mean, it was a whole thing. Even in my room, I remember I had like the the plastic beads, the like clear jewel tone plastic beads like on my bed. Like it was just, oh my God, you guys. So I get it. And I'm going to say for the most part, it's not us like 30, 40-year-olds that are really rocking this stuff. I mean, yes, some of us are wearing like elements of it, but for the most part, I just die when I see these teenagers and like 20-something-year-olds rocking mom jeans and big baggy sweaters, like the big mom sweaters. And it's just like, girl, no, right? I can't with that. Do you? But I cannot. So, If this isn't like a wake up call too. So this year on Halloween, when I went to Party City, you remember how like growing up you would see 70s costumes like dress like a hippie, and then it was like dress like the 80s. Well, now we have like 90s costumes and 2000s costumes, and I was like, I'm quit. I'm hanging it up. I'm done. Like I cannot. So the 90s is nostalgic. It's vintage. Like, let's just embrace that. Okay. So one thing the fashion is bad enough. I am sorry. I did not like 90s fashion at the time. It brings up a lot of like bad memories for me, being like the fat, chubby girl who couldn't find some of these fashion items because they didn't fit me, and we did not have online shopping. We did not have extended sizes the way we do today. So I personally don't ever want to see this shit come back. I don't like it. I don't need another sunflower ever again in my life. I don't need another butterfly clip for the rest of my life. Girl, I just don't. I don't need another striped, tight polo shirt for the rest of my life. I don't need big baggy jeans for the rest of my life. I left that shit in the 90s, and I am not going there again. And one thing I am especially not going back to is the media-induced body image bullshit. And that's what we're talking about today. So this article that came out, I get it. 90s are back. Wow. Okay. They're also talking about, well, now we're going to go back to the 90s body style. So, I can't with this. It's funny, and then it's not funny, because the stuff that went on with the fashion, with the lack of inclusion, with the skinny, quote unquote heroin chic body styles on the runways and the magazines and all of that, it created a lot of body image disorders and a lot of eating disorders for those of us that grew up in this time. And I get it. Every generation has their own thing or has things that happen. I can only speak for my generation. I can't speak for anybody else's. So the 90s created a shit ton of insecurities in our bodies. It was shoving down this idea that skinny is best. Skinny is the only way. Skinny is happy. Every single catalog, yes, I'm saying catalog because that's how, if you didn't shop in a store, then you shopped from a catalog. Every single catalog, every single model was rail thin. I'm talking about bone sticking out skinny, to the point where that term heroin chic was a thing. And it is the most asinine description or I never aspired to be like that. But for women that did, to want to aspire to be as thin as someone who is on a, extremely, extremely dangerous drug is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that these bullshit fashion people would even try to bring this back is just beyond me. It's like, haven't we evolved as a society, or so we thought? Haven't we evolved past the point where everybody that's in some type of fashion or trend or whatever has to look the same? Like, we have moved past that, you guys. So let me just take a step back in time real quick. This is going to be like a time machine. So back in the 90s, so let me just read you this. I saw like an official definition, if you will, of this heroin chic term, which just makes me shudder every time I say it. But it says it rose to prominence in the 1980s, both as a metaphorical and literal reference to the popularity of heroin in the modeling industry. It was characterized by pale skin, a very thin frame, dark under eye circles, limp or stringy hair, and heroin chic was the favored style for many designers through the early 1990s. Okay, this time machine we're going to go back into. See, in the 1990s, we didn't have a choice. We didn't have a choice in what we saw. We didn't have a choice in the only choice we had when it came to watching things on TV or the media or whatever, the only choice you really had was to turn the TV off. Because the media was in control. Back in the 90s, the media had control over what they could spoon feed to us, especially as young, impressionable teenage girls. We had TV and it was live TV, right? We didn't have streaming. We didn't have on demand. That did not exist. We had Live TV, if you miss it on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, you missed it. You might catch a rerun. We don't know if we're going to catch that or not. That's it. If you go to the bathroom during the commercials, if you don't get back in time, you miss the show. So we had TV. We had radio. The radio got to play what it wanted to play when it wanted to play. We didn't get to go on our Amazon Music. I mean, now it's just like I can go on my Amazon Music app and I can search literally any song I want to find. And it has the lyrics. I mean, we were sitting by our boombox talking about record, writing down lyrics, trying to figure out what they were saying, and we still got them wrong, right? So we had TV, we had radio, we had magazines, okay? We had in-store. We had, some stores had catalogs, right? And newspaper. And for the most part, that was it, guys. Like, there was no choice in terms of, yes, there were some different magazines, but for the most part, across the board, the same styles, the same things were being, like, regurgitated across the board because they're all in, like, competition with one another. So the difference between that and today, we have streaming TV, streaming music, we have social media, we have what happened with the internet is it opened up the world so that we could look at someone else that looks like us, that we can relate to, that we can go, damn, I'm not the only one that feels this way about my body. Damn, I'm not the only one that has rolls. And when I see that girl wearing those jeans with her rolls, she looks good. We didn't see girls with fat rolls or cellulite or any type of imperfections like that in the media. It wasn't a thing. If you were short, you could not be a model. If you were fat, you could not be a model. And nowadays, you don't need a modeling agency, you don't need a record label, you don't need a TV network for you to be able to make something out of yourself as a public figure, or for you to be able to pick and choose the types of media and people that you want to see. Right? We didn't have an algorithm that looked at what we're into, what we enjoy, what we want to see, and it kind of filters all that together for us. So when you're 14 years old getting your 17 magazine and everybody in there is like a size -0 with straight blonde hair and you don't fit that mold, it does something. It does something. It fucks with your body image and how you feel about yourself, because there's this standard of beauty that has been set. And that standard of beauty has been drilled into everyone, men, women alike. And, here's the other part of it too, is you would open these magazines and see these clothes that at the time, okay, cool. At the time I'm into it, right? I'm into the sunflowers and the crop top. Remember, it was like crop tops and the big baggy, like Jinko jeans. That was a whole thing for like the grungy, like look. And then when you go to the store and you can't find your size, or the biggest size in the junior section doesn't fit you, or it fits to where you can't even button the pants, or it doesn't fit at all, then these feelings of, well, I'm worthless because the clothes that are made aren't for me. When I see stylish clothes that are in the magazines, those clothes are not for me. Those are for the other girls. Those are for the skinny girls. Those are for the popular girls, right? Because at the time, I mean, I lived through this, and yet I'm having such a hard time wrapping my head around how we ever lived like this. How we ever lived without options. How we ever lived in our little bubbles and our towns and our cities, and we were not exposed to people from literally all over the world at the snap of a finger. So what you knew was where you were. Where you lived, the town that you lived in, the family that you come from, the group that's around you is all you know outside of MTV, 17 Magazine, Cosmo, whatever, different media outlets, right? So, yeah, it created a lot of body image and eating disorders in our generation. And, even if say you go, back to my story with, trying to find something cute in the junior section. Well, if you go to the woman's section, you have teacher clothes. I'm sorry. You have at the time, mom style, big mom jeans. Not cool when you're 14 years old. These ugly prints and, the clothes they were even making for grown women were fucking hideous. I'm looking back and it's like women in their 30s and 40s, they looked twice their age because they're wearing these pioneer woman skirts down to their ankles and these tight ass turtleneck. I don't even know what that style is called. It was hideous. Okay. So you're either going to dress like a 45-year-old woman in 8th grade, which I have a funny story about that. Or you don't have anything that fits you. And the plus size sections, first of all, a plus size section is like laughable if you think about it in the 90s. If they even had one, number one, it's in the women's section. Number two, it's this maybe 2 or 3 racks at the most in that section. And the clothes that are there are ugly. They are these big, loud, disgusting, hideous prints, big baggy blouses and trousers, and just, it was hideous. And there was no thought, no respect, no dignity for someone who's over a size 14. Because that's probably maybe a 16 is what some of the women's departments would go up to, right? The junior department, I mean, it's like a 15 is considered fat plus size. And I think I was like a 15, between a 13 to like a 15 at the time. And I look back now and I'm like, wow, I would really like to have that problem today at 41. So it just compounds, right? It compounds on the meat. And I'm not saying the media creates your thoughts. No, we are free thinkers. We are our own people. But when you are a young, impressionable teen girl, and this is the only place outside of your home and your school where you are getting messages, you are getting the messages, whether they're subliminal or not, that you are not good enough. If you can't fit into this crop top and these jeans, well, then that's your problem. You're worthless, you're useless, and you're fat, and you need to lose weight. And if you're like me, I went to a school district where it was a lot of the same types of looking people. Everybody, for the most part, was like super skinny, and a lot of them looked the same, and I never felt like I fit in, right? Here I am, my big fat ass size 13. I'm being sarcastic in case you don't know that. My big fat ass, curvy, thick 13 booty coming up in school was like, oh my God, you're a fat girl. Like, so when you're getting bullied for your weight, you don't fit in the school, you are getting these types of messages in the media, you're going shopping for clothes and you can't find things that fit your body, the shitstorm that creates inside of you is really intense. We got a lot of eating disorders and we got a lot of body image disorders that came out of this. And it has taken me my lifetime to reverse that damage of doing this work that I do. It's one of my ways of healing, honestly, of like talking about this, creating an open dialogue, because that's the other thing about it. When you have shame and you stay in silence and you don't have anyone out there that goes, me too, the shame multiplies. But when we can speak life into these things, we start to diminish all of that. Because there's this whole community of us in the world, not just in our city, our state, or even our country. There's this whole community of us out here in the world, and we all get it. We get each other, right? We have dialogue, we have terminology, we have things that we say on this podcast that some people may not understand the line of thinking. I know a lot of stuff that we talk about here, I don't have to really, explain a lot of it for you guys because we get each other. Okay. So in the 90s, we didn't have choice over a lot of these things. If you wanted a dress that looked like this, and that, unless you were rich and you could hire someone to make you couture dresses or clothing, or you knew someone that was really good at that, you just got what was available. Where today, if I have a vision in my mind of like what I want to wear, I can go online and I promise I can find that in like 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, it's amazing to me. And, you know, we are not, as a society, doing a great job. I wouldn't even call it a great job yet, but we're doing a better job of inclusivity, showing different, and it's not just the body sizes, guys. It's the different, you know, ethnicities and abilities, and, you know, showing women that look like real women. Oh my, this just came to my mind and it wasn't even in my notes. Okay, this is really going back in time. I remember, this just came to me, in the 90s, when we really, like, Sunday ads. I know some people still look at those, like the Sunday paper ads. I don't get the paper. I haven't gotten it, and I don't think I've ever gotten it as an adult, living on my own. But I used to love to look at the Sunday ads, right? Because that was another way of finding out, ooh, you know, what's in style or what's on sale. And, you know, and we didn't have text messages, getting alerts. I mean, I don't know how many text messages I've gotten this morning about sales with, you know, Black Friday coming up. We didn't have text messaging. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't have a phone when we left the house, okay? And I remember this one ad. It was from Walmart, and it would come out like, I think once a year. It would come out like once a year, and it was the Walmart Friends and Family. And in this ad, you know, ad insert, the models would be friends and family of Walmart. It was either like employees or friends, family, what have you. And I just remember thinking, wow, these are like real people. These are not polished, you know, model type people, right? These are real down to earth people. I even remember seeing, like, they might have even had, I think I remember seeing that too, where they had some in wheelchairs. And now, you know, the ads have people in wheelchairs. They have kids with Down syndrome doing modeling for children's clothing. We have plus size women. We have people with, you know, cellulite, where we're not going in and wiping that clean on the photos. Like, we're doing an okay job now, a better job, but we're not doing a great job. We still have a lot of room for improvement. But we need to see that diversity. We need to see diversity in these things. And, you know, there's a lot of power in being able to see yourself in someone else, especially when you're young. I can't imagine the impact and the way my life could have been different if I would have seen more curvy, thick, chubbier women in the ads. If I would have seen that, oh, that cute crop top, they make that in a bigger size, or they make that for large boobs, or they make that for girls with big hips. Like, the power that would have been there, or if I would have grown up seeing even influencers that look like me trying clothes on so I can see, like, wow, that would probably look good on me too. There is so much power in seeing yourself. And I just, you know, I cannot stress that enough. You know, because skinny, blonde, white women are not the only people walking the earth. We have a lot of other flavors going on, and we need to recognize that, and we need to embrace that, because it's beautiful. I don't want to be around everyone that looks the same. I want to have that rainbow of people, okay? So just kind of setting the stage there, and for some of you, maybe it was like, wow, I forgot about all of those things, or I forgot how much everything was spoon-fed to us on who had the biggest ad budget. Whoever had the biggest ad budget is who we're going to see. Oh, I can get on this podcast mic. I can say whatever I want to say, and I have an audience of women that are listening right now that connect with me, that get it, that understand, and you are literally all over the world listening to this. Can you imagine what that would take back in 1995? To have, and there were no podcasts, so it would have been the equivalent of like a talk radio show. you had to have a network. You had to get discovered. You had to, get some bougie asshole CEO to even want to have you. You had to have sponsors. I don't have to take a sponsor. I don't have to say anything on this podcast that anyone tells me to say. That is freedom. And I think we forget how things used to be. So when I see this headline, I am like, hell to the no. There is no way that we are going back to this bullshit. Okay? Just, and I'm a sidebar here for a second, just to kind of reiterate some of the things that I'm saying. It was the same when you went to your doctor. Do you guys remember? It was like you looked at your doctor as this authority figure. You just went with what they said because obviously they're smarter than you. They understand more about this topic than you. And whatever they say is the way to go. How else are you going to research that? You're going to either go to the library and go find some books that are probably already out of date at this point. You're going to go to your old ass encyclopedias. If you had those in your house, we did. And that information is out of date. And it's what, like a paragraph or two? Or you just so happen to know someone who knows someone that is going through the same thing. So nowadays, we get a cough or we start sneezing and we're like, Google, oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God, I have this. I think, and we hypochondriac the shit out of ourselves because it can go both ways. There's always pros and cons and there's a good and a bad side to everything, right? However, we're going into the doctor educated. We've done our research. We know what we need to ask, right? So we're armed now with information at our fingertips, and that is powerful. So, when I see this headline, I'm like, no. The first thought that comes to my mind is bodies are not a trend. And I know in back in the days, there's always like, in the 20s, everybody was like the trend to be was a board. In certain eras, like curvier was better. And I think that's just wrong anyway. I don't think that bodies are a trend. I don't have the luxury of saying, oh, okay, heroin chic is back. Let me go reduce the size of my hips. Let me go reduce the size of my boobs. Let me go reduce the size of my ass and my thighs. No, that's not going to happen. I have already done that bullshit in the past of trying to run away from my God-given traits. Okay, I was born this way. And trying to fight it. And let me be very clear. What I'm not saying is that you can't work on your body and lose weight. Obviously, like we talk a lot about that here too. What I'm talking about is my body and your body has a natural way of being. Some people are naturally bigger in the hips. Some people are naturally bigger chested. Some people are naturally hourglass shaped. Some people are naturally, straight up and down. And you can't change that, right? I mean, can you? Yeah, you can go under the knife, right? But that's extreme. Our bodies, point blank period, are not trends. And we know this now. We know better. And we now have a choice when it comes to who we're following, who we're engaging with, the type of role models that we want to have. We don't get to just pick from, 3 channels or whatever the hell. We have now an abundance of people that we can see ourselves in, that we can look up to, that we can aspire to. We already did this nonsense back in the 90s, and it didn't end well. It truly did not end well, and we know better. And so I just want to make sure that you understand your body is not a trend. Okay. And I'm like reading through this article and so many ads on here. It's so annoying. So let me see here. So they're talking about, like, even the Kardashians are turning away from their curvy physiques. Well, I'm sorry. I thought that was all natural, guys. Kim and Khloe are looking increasingly skinny as of late. Yeah, I agree with that. I have seen, I don't really keep up with the Kardashians too much, but I mean, you can't avoid it. And I have noticed that they look very gaunt, very bony in the chest areas. Their butts have definitely gone down. And so a lot of people are saying and speculating that they have reversed their Brazilian butt lifts, which, it's funny because obviously that was always never confirmed whether that was true or not. And it was like, oh no, we were all born this way. Yeah. Okay. Sure. And this is spreading throughout Hollywood and celebrities. And I don't think we should look at celebrities as, gods. Not at all. I don't think we should look at celebrities to give us, a compass as far as like how to be. No, I don't think that. But pop culture and all of that plays a role in our society. And to deny that is to be in denial, truly. So not only that, we have younger girls and teens and generations that are seeing this and going, oh yeah, that's the new style. So, there's even this is very controversial too. So there's also a lot of these celebrities, if you're noticing, are losing tons of weight. Like the Kardashians. Who else? I seen some other ones too recently that I was like, wow, they look super thin, like really thin. And apparently some of them are taking medication for type 2 diabetes. And I have heard and read that some of these medications, they cannot keep stocked on the shelves because people are using it not for treating their type 2 diabetes, but for losing obscene amounts of weight in a very quick time. Which, I mean, haven't we all learned our lesson with this kind of stuff? Like, are we really going to go back to this? Let's see here. So, I just want you guys to, when you see this stuff, we don't need to just have a knee-jerk reaction and go, oh, okay, yeah, no, you're your own person. You need to be very self-aware in who you are and what your definition of beauty is, what your definition of irresistible is. We don't need the fashion industry to tell us this. And quite frankly, it's laughable to me. You have these people in the fashion industry who sit up in their fancy offices, who think they're better than everybody else, and they sit around and decide how women should look? Are you fucking kidding me? And when I saw this picture, and I posted it on my Instagram story a week ago or so, it was on Amazon Fashion's Instagram page. There was some fashion event or whatever, and when I saw the women, this is all just laughable. The women wearing, I'm not even kidding you, a belt, a leather belt as a top. So we're going to tie a leather belt around our boobs, and that's fashion. Whenever you see this bullshit about body image, I just want you to remember that. The nonsense, stupid shit that they wear on these runways, these are the types of people that you have allowed to dictate how you feel about yourself. Not anymore. We're older, we're wiser, we know better. We know better than that. And, no one sat in a room and said, wow, for the girls that have, some triple Ds, what kind of belt are we going to put on them titties? Nobody's sitting around talking about that. Not that I'm going to go do that because I think it's stupid as hell. But that's my point. Is you got people that sit around and think putting a belt around some nipples is fashion. And they're the ones that are going to say the new body trend. No, bodies are not trends. Okay? It's just, that's as stupid as saying like skin color is a trend. You don't get to go out tomorrow and change that. I can't. I cannot. So you need to detox yourself away from this toxic shit. if you are following accounts, if you are reading websites, if you are reading blogs, watching videos of people who fall in line with this body trend stuff, they need to go, right? We definitely have seen the curvy trend, which is funny to me because I'm like, yeah, that's funny because I've been this way my whole life. It's funny that that's now a trend and people are going under the knife to get these, I've seen some really nice Brazilian butt lifts, and I have seen some that just look like, girl, like, who is your doctor? Because that looks ridiculous, okay? It looks ridiculous. We don't get to just go, stick a pin in our ass every single time the fashion industry decides, well, now we're going to go heroin chic. And why on earth would you want to be associated with a drug like heroin? No, thank you. And quite frankly, it's insulting to people that struggle with addiction. It's insulting. I mean, look at the opioid crisis in our country. Like, it's insulting to people that their lives have been ruined by this substance. It's insulting all around. And it's not okay. I think that, we need these conversations. We can't, because that's the thing, right? We couldn't have conversations with anybody about this before. The media just did what the hell they wanted to do. There was no comment section. What are you going to do? Write a letter to the newspaper? I mean, seriously, that was the only way. Write a letter to the editor that never gets read, that never gets a response. We need to have these conversations. We need to be putting this stuff out here on social media and publicly and letting them know we're not doing this anymore. We're not about this. And I've even seen, what is this? On The Guardian. And I'll link these in the, not that I want to give them any more clicks, but I think it's important for you guys to see this, like to know how ridiculous it is. On theguardian.com, they have a link saying, skinniness is back in fashion, but did it ever really go away? The style press might be reporting that thin is in, but lurking behind the headlines is alarming knowledge that the continuing obsession has been there all along. And I think that's true too. I think there's women that, never, and it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this. Those eating disorders, those body image disorders, some of those never went away for some of you. Some of those never went away for women that don't even know this podcast exists. That hasn't, it's not like that went away somewhere along the way. And just seeing the quotes, thin is back, is disgusting. It's disgusting, not because I think thin is disgusting. Let me be very clear. I think the term heroin chic is disgusting. I think encouraging women to look like they have bags under their eyes and they are sick because they're on heroin and they're rail thin because they're on a drug, that is sick. Being thin is a body type. It just is. It's not good or bad. Curvy fat is not good or bad, right? So I don't want anyone thinking that I'm dissing on anyone who's skinny. I'm not. What I'm dissing on is the style industry, the media, and all of them playing into this nonsense. And it's just not right. Oh my gosh. So I'm reading this as I'm talking, guys. It says, on TikTok, the popularity of searches such as heroin chic body has led to further brittle observations that, quote, thin is in. The low-rise gene requires a low BMI. The baby T, oh my God, the baby T requires, well, no T at all. Haha. Heroin chic, of course, was the fashionable body shape of the 1990s. If you read this, I can smell the CK1 as I'm saying it. Yes. So, I can smell the CK1. I can smell the glitter gel from Bath and Body Works and the cucumber melon. And let me just say this, those baby tees, those created so much trauma in my life. Like my big old boobs with some baby tees, low-rise jeans. Sorry, that was not something I was able to participate in at the time. And I have no intention of ever participating in that nonsense again. It's just very scary to me that this is even being talked about because it's a thing again. And there's so many girls out here, especially those of you that are mothers that have girls, and I don't care what age they are. It is our job to make sure we are filtering through this stuff and helping them not to hide it, okay? But at an age it has to be age appropriate. Having the types of conversations, and I have them with my daughter who's 6 all the time, that everybody is different. Bodies come in different shapes and sizes and abilities, and it's okay. And I have drilled that into her since she was a baby, and I'm going to do the same with my son, because it's not just a girl thing. The majority of my bullying in school didn't come from girls. It came from boys. So we have to do better with our children. We have to educate them. We have to expose them to different things. And that's the other thing, is we just didn't have the exposure. So whatever you grew up in is what you grew up in, But this is just really scary to me, and we need to keep having this conversation. I think it's a fluid conversation. I think as more things are going to come up, because as trends usually do, they're going to continue on. I don't think this is going to stop. I think this is going to continue. I think you're going to keep seeing this, but we have to keep pushing back. And I know a lot of people online are already starting to do that, and we have to keep pushing back on this. This cannot continue. It just can't. The amount of time, energy, tears that I have spent as a young person feeling that I'm not good enough, feeling that I'm not beautiful, feeling that I'm too fat. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I didn't know then what I know now, obviously. But just, hoping and praying, okay, remember Delia's catalog? I wanted those clothes so bad. And they just didn't fit. Like, I was not obese. I told you, I was like a size 13, maybe a 15 in juniors. So it's like, even the highest size in these low-rise jeans or some of these fashion trends, they didn't fit me. Or they didn't fit properly. And wanting so bad to wear some of these that it created this thing of whatever fits, you better buy it, because that's it. It fits you, so you might as well buy it. And sometimes I still find myself like having to, no, just because it fits doesn't mean I have to buy this if I don't like it. And yeah, there's just so much I could say and go on and on about this, but yeah. We even had a store back in the day. We talked about merry-go-round. We had a store called 579. I could never shop there, but I had friends that shopped there, so I got to tag along with them and pretend that I only wanted to look at shoes and accessories, because that store only fit 579. If that is not a walking, like, epitome of let's create eating disorders and body image disorders and body dysmorphia for teenage girls, I don't know what else is. I mean, that is just, who the fuck sat in a boardroom and said, we're going to call this store 579, and if you don't fit in those sizes, you're not welcome here? Who did that? Have we not evolved since then? I guess not. I guess we haven't evolved. I guess, we're making progress as a collective whole, society, whatever. But we're still trying to break down these barriers of diet culture, body image, eating disorders. And we're not there yet. We're not there yet. And I don't think we'll ever be in a place where it's completely gone, because it's just not real. That's not realistic. But the body positivity movement has made waves, and we need to continue to make our voices heard. Don't stay quiet about this. We cannot stay quiet about this. We have to talk about this. We have to, I'm sorry, I can't even get my words together because I'm just so flabbergasted, I guess, that this is even happening. And if you don't see that people come in different shapes and sizes and that that's okay because we're not all created the same that way, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to someone like that. You know, so your body's not a trend. Your body is not a trend. You don't get to go out tomorrow and change your body because some asshole wearing a belt on their titties said that it was changing. No. Mm-mm. Like, I know I'm in a position where I no longer aspire to be that thin girl in the 17 magazine. I no longer aspire to be, you know, a single digit size. That's not my goal. I love to be curvy. I love to be thick. I love to, even my little, not my fat rolls, I don't mind them. Okay. I think, you know, all bodies are beautiful in their own way. And I don't feel insecure anymore because of that. Right. And I don't need to desperate diet to change. I don't need to hide my body because it doesn't look like someone on a runway or a magazine. But not everybody has done the work to get here. We still have women that came from my generation that are still struggling. It might be you listening to this right now. You know, how many diets did you go on? Why were you on all those diets? Because you wanted to look a certain way. It wasn't about your health, boo. It was not about your health. Okay, the grapefruit diet, the Special K diet, the Subway diet, Deal a Meal, Super Size Me. What, I'm trying to think of all the dumb shit that came out 90s, early 2000s. Jenny Craig. Nobody was doing that because of their health. They were doing it because they wanted to fit into a certain ideal body type. Okay? We need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of our bodies physically. We need to take care of ourselves mentally, emotionally. Because when you do that, when you have this, you know, radical self-awareness of who you are and what you stand for, these messages will not, it's like you can repel them. And I feel that way. Like, I see this and I laugh because I'm like, oh, for God's sakes. Like, are we really going to go here again? Like, but not one part of me feels pressured to, you know, look like I'm on heroin. Not one part of me feels the need to be, you know, quote unquote, thin. Because I've done my work. And I continue to do it every single day. It doesn't mean, yes, there are days I wake up and I am not 100% happy with what I see in the mirror. But I also don't feel the need to desperate diet. I don't feel the need to punish myself. I don't feel the need to beat myself up. And we have to do that. You have to do that work too. If you're still in that place where you're very fragile and vulnerable. And that is my fear. That is why I'm angry, is that there are so many women and girls that are fragile and vulnerable to this type of stuff because they don't have the self-awareness yet. They don't have the personal development work done to repel these messages off of them. And it's insidious because, you know, yes, these articles are coming out and it's being blasted and everything like that, but they'll start to see it in the Instagrams that they follow and the people that they follow. And they're like, oh, you know, that's how it all starts. And so let's have this conversation. Let's keep this conversation, this dialogue open. Because like I said, this is very fluid. You know, I may even pop back on here again and talk about it some more as more things start to come in. But the number one takeaway that I want you to have from listening to this episode, your body is not a trend. And I'm looking at another article, and I just want to say this to you guys. I'm quoting, this is from Metro. Anorexia has among the highest death rates of all mental disorders. Eating disorders kill. Right this second, as you are reading this or listening, someone is dying a painful death from an eating disorder. Guys, I want you to know that you are irresistible just the way you are. You are not worthless, okay? You have so much to offer this world. You have so many amazing talents. You are more than your physical outward appearance. You are more than your body. And you don't deserve to spend time hating yourself, sitting on the sidelines, missing out on life because some asshole in a boardroom said thin is in. And that same asshole also thinks putting belts on a pair of titties looks good. Let's just bring it down to that, okay? You are amazing. You deserve to take care of yourself. You deserve to live the life that you want, okay? And I don't know what else to say. I feel like that's kind of going to wrap things up. We're not losing any more time off of our life by trying to fit into a mold that, quite frankly, doesn't even exist. Okay? Embrace who you are today. Embrace the body that you have. Okay? Wanting to take care of yourself, wanting to fill your body with good foods, healthy foods, nourishment, that is not a bad thing. That is a good thing. Okay? Be true to yourself. When you see this stuff, call it out. Send it to me. Let's talk about it. We got to have these conversations, because when we have these conversations, we get the word out that this is just not okay. And that's all I can really say about this. We'll continue. All right, guys? So let's continue the conversation either in the free Facebook group or over on my Instagram at Irresistible Icing. Also, if you liked this episode or any episode in the Irresistible You podcast, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. It is quick and easy to do. That is the number one way you can help support this podcast. If this podcast has helped you in any such way, I would greatly appreciate that. I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay irresistible. Bye, guys.